elected.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is our holiday.
Hot takes are everywhere, but they're often uninformed, and major news is biased. We've had enough of hot takes. We want informed takes. Join Kevin Briggins and Devin Smith as they have rational conversations about domestic politics, geopolitics, and military affairs. Things will get interesting as they bring in expert guests, even from across the aisle. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and hop into the chat. It's time for Informed Takes.
It's been a while since that happened.
It's been a while.
Welcome everybody to Informed Takes. I am Kevin Briggins. He is Devin Smith, and we are glad that you all are with us again tonight. Man, so this is our first live Thursday night, right?
It is. That's right. It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The chat is going. Future in the house, the best mod in the business.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for being here, Future.
Yep, absolutely. Man, how you been?
Been good, man. Just busy. Been busy, but we got producer Liam back. We're back in the studio. We got Liam back. Everybody, say what's up to producer Liam.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute since we had you in the studio and had Liam producing, but tonight's a special night, so we had to do it.
That's right, man. That's right. We got some special guests with us tonight.
We do. But before we get started, we got to talk about. We got to see. And I know you don't have anything.
I got nothing, man. I got nothing. I got nothing to drink except maybe grabbing a Spindrift out of the fridge in a little bit. But I got nothing to drink, man. So just go ahead and blow us up, man.
And I knew you were running. I was like, he don't have anything.
No, I ain't got nothing.
No, but my bartender, despite the fact it being Juneteenth, she showed up for work today, and she came through. So my bartender, aka Shalonda, made me a peach cobbler martini.
My gosh.
Listen.
Yes.
Listen. Oh my gosh.
It tastes like I'm drinking a peach cobbler, man.
Man. How many toes, man? How many toes on this one?
Oh, okay. So we went back and forth on it. It's down to about 6.
Dang.
Yeah,
Dang.
But it's
6 toes on this one.
It's about 6 toes on this one.
Dang.
Yeah. I mean, good thing, man. It's peach cobbler.
Yeah. I mean, if you're drinking peach cobbler, I mean, it enters the bloodstream faster. So I gotta reckon that's gonna cost you some more toes than just any regular old drink.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, it's got some vodka in it. It's got she used a homemade bourbon vanilla that she made, and so yeah, it's on point.
Man,
it is
doing
on
the most.
Point.
Doing the most. Hey, Shalonda, we salute you.
I appreciate her working on Juneteenth too. This special holiday of ours.
No doubt.
All right. With that said, we do have a special show for you guys today. We are discussing the Israel and Iranian war crisis conflict that is going on, and everything, politics around it, and even some biblical stuff with Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
But we did bring some special guests on to help us discuss this. So without further ado, let's bring our guest on. There we go. We've got Krista and Monique from the Center for Biblical Unity. How you guys doing?
What's up? I am not as good as you with a peach cobbler drink.
Nobody's as good as Kevin. Let
the Lord use Shalonda.
Seriously. I get shown up every week. Shalonda makes him some straight up craft thing that if you went to a bar would cost you $40. And she flexes every week.
Wow.
I will say this. She enjoys doing this. It kind of gives her a creative outlet. And so every week she enjoys like coming up with something new and making it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm here to support you in this,
Right?
Man.
Right?
Man.
But I know a lot of our audience knows you guys, but why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us kind of who you are and what is the Center for Biblical Unity?
You want to go first?
Sure. Well, nobody asked me about my drink.
Girl,
I'm sorry.
You got a drink?
Krista, what you drinking on?
I'm marginalized already. So my name's Krista.
Well, it is Juneteenth.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only allowed to just listen in.
You got to lift every voice and sing on this episode. Okay?
Yeah. Some voices are lifted more than others. So I'm Krista Bontrager. I'm the co-founder of the Center for Biblical Unity. I don't drink alcohol, so I'm just having
you got I feel you. Those are good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are good.
We respect it.
All right.
We respect it.
Yeah.
And I am Monique Dusan. I am the other co-founder of the Center for Biblical Unity, and I am drinking something out of a Stanley cup. And we don't need to talk about what it is.
It's just water.
It's water with lemon. It's trying to be fancy.
Yeah, that's your story and you're sticking to it, right?
Exactly.
It's clear. That's all that matters.
That's all that. Yeah, it's all right.
That's outstanding. Man, Kevin, I got to say, I'm actually a little bit disappointed because I thought that you were going to be wearing a dashiki tonight. You sent me a picture of you in a dashiki, and I am severely disappointed that that is not live on the air right now.
Trust me, that was my thought process. But no, so I live with 4 women, my wife and 3 daughters, and no one thought that was a good idea. I'm just going to say that.
I mean, okay. I mean, we see who runs that house now. I'm just kidding. They did right by you, man. They did right by you. I was going to talk junk all night long, so they saved your life.
But now I was going to wear it as a, in joke of Juneteenth, but it actually was a gift of a friend of mine who's from Africa. We served in the military together, and he's actually Muslim, and he gave it to me as a gift because of just out of respect for my knowledge and my interest in his country and religion and respect I gave him. And so when I got ready to leave, he gave it to me as a gift. And so I really appreciated it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I was going to wear it tonight, in honor of, Juneteenth, but
as well you should.
I was overruled by my household.
All right.
No fun. Well, you look good anyway. Okay. You look good.
Hey, once you told me you were wearing a suit, man, I was like, okay, I can't wear the dashiki. So, but with that said, there was a lot happened this week. Krista, you and I have texted, emailed, and talked a lot this week.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, y'all.
And mainly because
we should explain, we have a 3-way text thread. And so when Kevin and I are texting each other, Monique has to put up with all our foolishness of when I'm sending news articles and videos and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Kevin forgets that it's a 2-hour time difference. So 8:00 for you is only 6:00 for me.
I do forget that sometimes. I do.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
But yeah, so this week, Israel kicked off an escalated conflict with Iran, and Iran fired back. I think we have a news clip that kind of spins everybody up on it, so everybody kind of knows kind of what we're talking about and what's going on before we start diving into it.
Okay.
So I don't know if Liam has that queued up or not. But yeah, let's watch that news clip.
Iran's retaliation for Israel's attack on its nuclear program. Iran continued targeting Israel with a barrage of missiles this morning. Israeli military officials say most were intercepted, but at least 3 people were killed and dozens more wounded. This comes 2 days after Israeli forces used warplanes, drones, and covert operatives to target Iran's top military leaders and scientists, along with its nuclear facilities. Iran also sent a warning to the United States, France, and the United Kingdom that their bases and ships in the Middle East will be targeted if they help Israel stop Tehran's missile attacks. Haley Ott is following the conflict from our London newsroom and joins us now. Haley, good morning.
Good morning, Dana. 2 U.S. officials confirmed to CBS News that the United States helped Israel intercept some of those Iranian missiles overnight as Iran retaliated for that Israeli attack.
Sirens through the night, sending millions across Israel to bomb shelters. Waves of Iranian retaliatory strikes rained down on the country. Some made it through Israel's missile defense systems, smashing into homes, injuring dozens and killing at least 3. Israel, meanwhile, continued its massive assault on Iran. its largest ever air offensive against its longtime enemy, killing at least 70 people and wounding hundreds, targeting military leaders, infrastructure, and Iran's nuclear program, including nuclear scientists and facilities, like Iran's main enrichment site at Natanz, shown here in the aftermath of an attack. Israel said its assault was necessary to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. On Friday, global nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, warned of the serious risks of combat around nuclear sites.
Any military action that jeopardizes the safety and security of nuclear facilities risks grave consequences for the people of Iran, the region, and beyond.
Hundreds of supporters of Iran's hardline government turned out in Tehran to celebrate their country's response to Israel's attacks. We will continue to give a crushing response with the support of our people, our leader, and our brave soldiers, this woman said. But many Iranians are unhappy with their government, with the state of the economy and the lack of certain freedoms.
The proud people of Iran.
And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent a message to the Iranian people.
And the time has come for you to unite around your flag and your historic legacy by standing up for your freedom from an evil and oppressive regime.
Dr. Raz Zimt is the director of the Iran program at Israel's Institute for National Security Studies.
Is there a risk that the regime could fall because of these assaults?
Right now, I think that the only way for a regime change in Iran is if the Iranian regime collapses from within, or if we see more and more protests going on inside Iran.
And Israel's defense minister has warned this morning that, quote, Tehran will burn if it continues firing missiles at Israel, which it has vowed to do. Michelle.
Haley Ott in London. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So that's kind of a brief rundown of kind of what's been going on over the last couple of days. Krista, let's start with you. I know you've had a lot of thoughts and questions and stuff. What is your take on this, or what kind of questions you want to throw out there?
Well, I think that one of the first things I think is important for people to understand is that not all Iranians think the same way. That there is a contingency of Iranians, particularly here in the United States, that long for the days of what I'm going to call old Iran, of when the Shah was there. And the Shah, I'm old enough to remember when the Shah was kind of fell and Iran was taken over by the Islamo-fascists that rule it today. But the Shah was really, from what I understand, trying to westernize the country. He gave women the right to vote. He got rid of the feudal system. He began educational programs for children, even if you were not wealthy, so that children could become educated and learn to read and write. And women got the right to vote. They didn't have to wear veils anymore. They were able to run for office. That he was really being quite intentional about partnering with Western countries related to oil. They had a lot of oil, but they needed help with it and bringing it to market and making it in usable form. And so there's a lot of people that from what I understand, there's about 1 million immigrants in our country that are from Persian or Iranian extraction. And they are a very proud people. They're proud of their culture. We have a lot of them here in Southern California in certain pockets. And they are a very, they tend to love our country, but they're also very proud of being Persian at the same time. And the question that I think we have to ask, and who Bibi Netanyahu was speaking to in that clip, is he's speaking to the people that remain in Iran that don't really want this kind of Islamic fascist type of government. And that's a big question that we don't know. We don't know how many of those people are still left in the country. And he's basically, Bibi was encouraging them, rise up. And the old Iranian flag had a lion on it. And one of the reasons Israel called the project rising lion was as a harkening back to that old flag of the old Iran, with the hope that the people that remain in Iran who do want freedom and to be more freedom oriented, to rise up and try to topple the government, much like we saw at the end of this old Soviet Union. So I don't know. Those are some initial thoughts off the top of my head that, I think it's important historical context for people to understand.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that people, don't understand that Iran was not always an Islamic republic. That happened in 1979, the revolution. Prior to that, Iran was a Western U.S. ally. That's why they have F-14s, for example, because they were given military equipment and stuff like that before the Islamic Revolution.
So they still have equipment from the 70s?
They do.
Is that what you're telling me?
They do. Well, I don't know how many they have left because Israel destroyed a lot of them the other day. They put out a video of them destroying F-14s on the runway. Yes, up until recently, they still had them. They were still flying them. So the Iranian people are it's a mixed bag. It just really is. There have been several uprising attempts over the years. The most recent one was a few years ago when the woman was killed over, not wearing her hijab or not wearing it properly, and she was taken in by like the religious police, and she ended up dying, and that sparked a massive protest throughout the country. Women started taking off their hijabs to protest, but the regime always comes with a heavy hand and squashes those uprisings. I would expect that to be the case here if it was tried again. I don't think that you can talk about like an Arab Spring type of rising up of people against the government. It would take a lot of people to decide that's what they wanted to do. And I'm still not sure how successful it would be in terms of the IRGC. It really depends on what side the military takes, right? So Iran has basically two different militaries. They have their standard traditional military, and they have the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the IRGC represents and works directly for the Ayatollah or the supreme leader, not the president, not the parliament. They work and answer directly to the supreme leader, and they are the elite of their military force. But their regular military, that's the question mark of what side would they choose. Because like in Syria, what happened was with Assad was you had a split within the military, and you had some within the military decide to protect the people, right? And so it would take some type of movement like that. I don't think we're there yet. People are calling for it. But one thing that's making it difficult is the Iranian government has basically cut off communication. Like they shut the internet down, they shut landlines down. They do not want people to be able to organize and rally up against the government. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, it was I'll just give some context too for the current conflict. Because for some people, this caught them off guard, right? They didn't see this coming. We should have seen this coming because essentially Israel has been at war with Iran since October 7th of 2023. Since Hamas conducted that attack on October 7th, Israel has been at war with Iran. Now, the news can make it about Hamas and Gaza, but at the end of the day, the big picture was Iran, because Iran funded, Iran trained Hamas, and Iran did a lot of operational planning for that attack. And then once Israel started to respond to Hamas in Gaza, then Hezbollah, who's Iran's other proxy, started firing rockets on Israel from Lebanon, which is in the north. And so basically what they were trying to do is make Israel fight on two different fronts. Mm-hmm. But both of these groups are funded, resourced, and trained by Iran, right? And then you have the Houthis over here in Yemen who are also funded, trained by Iran, firing rockets into Israel. And so all of this has been about Iran and Israel the whole time, right? Regardless of the group name. And so what happened was Israel has basically defeated Hamas. They really destroyed Hezbollah with the whole pager thing, and then they killed all their senior leaders in that one airstrike on their building. And so Hezbollah is really no threat anymore. And so Israel has turned their focus to the person who's really behind all of this, and that's Iran. And we should have seen this coming, because this is just a continuation of October 7th. This isn't some new thing. Yeah. This is a continuation of what happened on that October 7th, 2023. So just kind of give people the bigger picture of what's going on within this fight that we in America are fighting over.
That's one of the things, obviously that I knew was going to spring up as soon as I heard that that the fighting had started, that Israel struck Iran, and that we were potentially going to be involved. I knew that all the MAGA folks were not going to be happy about it, because they considered this us meddling in things that we shouldn't be involved in. So I knew that was coming too. So I admittedly did not know that Israel was going to strike directly at Iran. I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm glad that it's happening, because to your point, Kevin, this doesn't stop unless Iran is stopped. They're going to continue to propagate war, really, and to fund terrorist organizations across the world. So this is not just, the United States is getting involved, messing around with countries that have nothing to do with us, that pose no threat to us. Iran is not just doing terror over in the Middle East. Iran is sponsoring terror throughout the globe. They call us the Great Satan. So they call Israel the Little Satan. We are their number one enemy. They want to commit more acts of terror here. And I think that they didn't understand that Trump meant what he said when he said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. They can never.
He has said
weapons.
that consistently for a decade.
That's right.
Or more.
Yes.
That has been even during all of the campaigning of no more wars, no more endless wars. Even in the middle of all of that messaging, he also has had a very consistent message of Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. I mean, so two things can be true at the same time in how he campaigned. I have a lot of questions about a lot of things that some are coming up in the chat already. So I want to, I don't want to steer the conversation, but I've got a lot of questions.
Go ahead, because they are coming in the chat. What do you got, Krista?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have to address is that Israel has been planning these attacks, obviously, for a very long time. They were deeply embedded in Iran for years to identify these people, to pass themselves off in high levels of government, to be able to identify where people lived and all of that. So my hunch is that our intelligence knew that this was happening, like that they had some awareness, because we share a lot of intelligence with the Mossad and the Israel's intelligence agency. I guess one of the things that I'm seeing on X quite a bit is many people have a concern about why would we even be considering involving ourselves in a regional skirmish between Israel and Iran. Like, even if I buy all your arguments that Iran has been engaging in these proxy wars through the Houthis and Hezbollah and all of these other groups, okay, I buy all of that. Why does this concern me? Why do I, as an American, we have so many problems here. We're trying to secure our borders. We're trying to figure out how to not collapse our economy through extreme debt. We got a lot of fraud. Like, why am I going to now engage in a war that really doesn't seem to concern me?
And that's been my position. Krista and I have gone back and forth. I saw our dear friend Matt put in there, MAGA isolationists are a bit ridiculous. I don't think I'm ridiculous, Matt, but I also wouldn't necessarily call myself an isolationist. I just I have a lot of concern about why we are getting involved. And especially like when everything first happened, I was like, you hit somebody and now they're hitting you back, and now you want to go and call in help after you didn't hit somebody.
You want to call your
Now,
big brother
gotta
to come clean up the mess.
But the more I have read over the last couple of days and done some research and things like that, I think I'm starting to lean more into the, well, maybe it won't be the worst thing, but I do feel like, can the American people actually take now being in a war? Because and I know that some are like, well, it won't require boots on the ground. We just need help like with some airstrikes in certain locations. But I don't believe that that's true. I do think it'll take boots on the ground. And I don't know that we are at a place where we can go and rescue people when we are in a lot of issues just on our own home soil. I am willing to be persuaded otherwise, and like I said, I am slowly being persuaded to see why people would say yes, we need to actually go and assist, but it's a struggle for me.
Yeah. I'll say this. There is no issue at home that deters our foreign policy. Like when me and Krista talked about the border, and she was like, well, we got all these issues. We got to close the border. We don't have money for all this stuff. And I was like, closing the border ain't about money. There are issues.
What you said was it's about the will.
Yeah, it's about the will to
finish
do it.
that statement. It is about the will, which
Yeah,
turned out to be true. It wasn't a
Yeah.
money problem. It was an issue of the will. Okay.
Yeah. And even in our own country, we talk about the budget and the deficit. It's still an issue of will. But none of that stuff is reliant on whether or not we engage in this conflict. I will say this.
But won't the military get tapped out if we're like doing stuff overseas in the Middle East, and we're trying to secure our border, and we're trying to round up 15 million illegal aliens? I mean, I'm just concerned that the military is going to be really stretched thin.
I mean, most of the stuff with ICE and the border stuff isn't the military. Most of the military is not actively engaged in anything right now other than what we call peacetime training. So we don't have a major conflict going on. And so a lot of what we're doing is preparing and training for a war, because that's what the military does. And there are people in certain parts of the world that operate and work in certain areas that might have their eye on Russia, Ukraine, or might have their eye on what's going on in Israel and Iran and doing some stuff. But for the most part, most of the military is just back home, stateside, waiting, training for, being prepared for what's next, because that's what our job is during peacetime. This is what I will say about, I'm just going to try to give it from a U.S. foreign policy perspective, right? Devin kind of already laid it out about Iran's position of we are the great Satan, right?
Yeah.
They've declared war on us, right? They've declared that we must be destroyed and, down with America and all this stuff. This is the position that they're in. Their proxies are gone. Hezbollah, Hamas are basically gone. Syria, Assad in Syria was their other ally. And Syria was also one of the ways they were reaching and getting weapons and people and stuff down to attack Israel. So you gotta remember, Iran and Israel are really far apart. So Iran doesn't have the ability to hit Israel other than their long-range missiles. That's why they were using proxy groups to do it from Lebanon, southern Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, right? But Iran itself, like I said, doesn't have the ability to really strike to strike Israel. But what they have done, like I said, by declaring themselves our enemy, Israel's enemy, and being hell-bent on causing chaos throughout the region and terrorism throughout the region, this is what people don't understand about Afghanistan and Iraq. Iran was running a proxy war against us in both of those countries. Iran is responsible for the majority of U.S. service members' deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan because they were funding and training the insurgent groups in both countries. Not only that, we talk about IEDs. There's a special type of IED, and I was going to put a video in. I decided to leave it out, called an EFP IED. Those were introduced into Iraq by the IRGC. The IRGC was the one going around and training these Hezbollah terrorist groups inside Iraq and even the Al-Qaeda ones on how to develop these particular IEDs that would pierce U.S. armor. And so the vast majority of U.S. soldier deaths in Afghanistan and Iraq were at the hand of the Iranians. And nothing happened to them. We didn't bomb anything. We didn't say anything. We let them fund and train and disrupt and kill our people, right? So now this is the situation. Their proxy groups are gone. Their ally in Syria, Assad, is gone. They are isolated. And Israel has every right to strike them and take them out. And we're saying, go do it.
But what's the strategic advantage for us? Like, I don't feel like you've really convinced me or argued yet, like, why we should be involved. All you've done is explain the current reality, but I still am not clear. Like, why does this involve me? Like, we have already put our blood and treasure for 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, and to me, we don't have anything to show for it. Why would I want to send more aid, more people to, all right, so I'm going for the head and I want to lop off the head. Okay, if I buy that argument, but why does that concern me as an American? Why
because
is
because 9/11 should taught you that you're not isolated from the world.
Yeah,
You're not isolated from the world.
So what your position? Go ahead,
Terrorism finds you regardless, and we have an enemy who is dead right on killing us, and we got a chance to cut off their head. You go cut their head off.
But we've been trying to do that for over 20 years.
We have not tried to cut Iran's head off. We have left them alone, and they have continued their terrorism throughout the region. And that's even
with John says you know nothing. I just want you to know that. John says you know nothing. So you're an idiot. And
yes. I only spent 20 plus years in military intelligence and have a degree in Middle Eastern studies and know about this.
Apparently everyone was at peace until Israel arrived on the scene. So,
and that was not the case.
And I think this is where my heart is starting to change, because I am definitely like, look, you shouldn't hit nobody, and now you don't need to get hit back, or you should have calculated how do we hit the head without having to ask for anybody's help. But I do hear what you're saying, because I remember 9/11 of like, yes, they do have. Even if they have not made some national, declaration in their constitution, we know that there is an intended end of destroying America. Like, we know that. And because of that, it makes me sympathetic to the idea of going in to finish, to help finish this thing that Israel has started. And when I say Israel started, I'm just talking about going back a couple of days, not, like Iran started, in things in history. I also have a friend who is Iranian, and his family came over shortly after 1979. And his thought on it, he made a great post on social media, but that, what we're seeing, what we potentially could be seeing is the decolonization of Islamicism in that area, to allow people to have the freedom to live in a way that was pre-1979. And so listening to some of the heart cries of my Iranian friends here, yeah, I could be persuaded, but it still concerns me that it's like, I don't know that's our fight.
This has nothing to do with the Iranian people. Absolutely nothing. Just like a war with China would have nothing to do with the Chinese people.
That's right.
Their regime, they have no control over their regimes.
It's
that regime
over
does what?
we're at war with a corrupt government, I think is what you're
Yes.
saying. Yeah,
Yes.
the elites at the tippy top, that's who we're trying to defeat. We have no beef with the average Iranian on the street.
Yeah. No. And I'll just tell John in the chat, stop listening to Candace Owens, who has no idea what she's talking about. Because that's
Or
all
John,
you're
you
doing.
might want to click off this stream. It's going to be very frustrating for you.
It's going to
Yeah,
be hard
You're
for
gonna
you,
be
man.
in the
Yeah.
realm of
It's
facts.
going to be
over
real
here.
hard for you. Liam, can you bring up John's comment just so everybody understands what we're talking about here? Oh, my gosh. So we got one, y'all. We got us one.
And not only that, he's framing Israel's actions in Gaza as Jews versus Christians. And that is the most ignorant take, as if Christians are the vast majority of people in Gaza, right?
Yeah, go to Gaza and
or
try to
as
preach
if
Jesus Christ and see what happens.
Exactly. Or as if Hamas is not the one who puts civilians in harm's way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hamas does not separate their military, their fighters, from their civilians. Matter of fact, they intentionally mingle them because they want civilian deaths so that people like John can get on here and spout nonsense, right? So if you fire a rocket at me from an apartment complex and I retaliate back at you and people die, don't blame me for the deaths. That's on you. So don't come with this propaganda stuff, because it's gonna get destroyed, because it's pure ignorance. Yeah. It is pure, you have no idea how hard it is. And I can just tell you from a U.S. service member perspective, you have no idea how hard it is to try to save lives, to protect women and children, and you have an enemy hell-bent on killing as many as they can.
Yep.
So back in the real world here, I think what your case is that Iran's already at war with us, whether they've formally declared that or not. There's good reasons to believe that they already have people here in our country, given our lax border policies under the previous administration, that potentially could be triggered, and
multiple previous administrations.
There's a thought that they're already at war with us, and so us taking a strike and aiding Israel in trying to really go for the head of this kind of Islamic extremism, that could be a step forward in the conversation.
And not only that, you got to remember, Iran is the number one antagonist in the entire Middle East. Most of those countries there are Sunni. Iran and Iraq are the only majority Shia countries. Iran is the heartbeat of Shia Islam. And they have this grand idea, not only of taking out Israel, but they have this idea of a Shia crescent that extends throughout the Middle East, because there are Shia minorities in all of these Sunni countries. And so there's always this risk or this threat that Iran will rile up these Shia minorities in these majority Sunni countries to cause trouble. Or like a country like Bahrain that is mostly Shia, but is ruled by a Sunni government, right? And so there are very sensitive dynamics in this region that Iran kind of pulled the strings on and caused trouble throughout the entire region. To take this regime out would end all of that. To take this regime out would end all of the attacks on Israel. Right.
Well, I think that's being optimistic, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is because it makes me wonder, like, so who are the friends of Iran? And I'm just a regular normal person. I'm not geopolitical at all. Like, I don't have these conversations, but it does make me wonder, like, well, are Russia and China willing to come and back Iran? I know, Kevin, that we've had conversations about Russia before, and I think you and Krista even talked about the fact that Russia is really tied up with Ukraine. But, what does that mean if the goal is not to have boots on the ground, but just to maybe take out a bunker or two, and we decide to get behind that, but then others come and decide that they're going to back Iran. Now we might need to have boots on the ground, and it could be bigger than just this Israel-Iran conflict.
We're getting the head note.
There's no plan or risk of having boots on the ground. No one's trying to do that. Right now, the only potential thing they would ask us to do is potentially use one of our 30,000 pound bunker buster bombs on a nuclear facility, or possibly, well, the Mossad could do that. I was saying go in on the ground, small special forces team, and destroy it from the ground. This is basically comes down to, is there regime change and how does that come about? That regime change would not come from boots on the ground. It would come from airstrikes taking out key leaderships, to include the Ayatollah, right? And if that happens, you basically are saying, Iranians, it's up to you now. Go.
Yeah.
And it's going to be chaos as to who takes power, control, and how that plays out. But that's what the play would be. I don't know if we're there yet, but there is no U.S. military boots on the ground option here.
Yeah, and,
Go ahead,
and
Devin.
if I can add something, basically, people are concerned about Russia and China getting involved, and they're concerned about World War III potentially starting up because of what's going on here. I actually think that, and I've seen other people say this actually prevents World War III from happening, because it basically cuts off one of the really the heads of the snake, right? So you've got Iran tied to Russia and China. Russia's involved in an active conflict right now. China's preparing for a kinetic war. They're trying to use a lot of other methods to actually hurt us. But if we are able to essentially defang Iran, that makes them pretty much a much less of a threat in a World War III scenario. So they're not really able to bring as much to the table if something does break out, because we do need to remember that while we are dealing with these kind of proxy wars where we're dealing with Russia, we're dealing with Iran, China is the real threat. Now, Iran is still a threat. They would still use tactics like 9/11, and we can't be sure, to be quite honest with you. And the former FBI director said that he's never seen more red lights going off all over the country because we had a wide open border. People think that it was just Mexican people and South American people coming across the border. Absolutely not. We had both Middle Eastern and Chinese nationals coming across the border. So I can almost guarantee you that there are people who are in terror cells who have made it across the border. We've apprehended some of them. We caught some of them, but we've got to cut the head of the snake off, one, to make sure that they don't have a head of command across the ocean telling them where to strike here. And then also, if a World War III scenario breaks out, China doesn't have a whole lot of friends who have any firepower left.
And I'll say this too: the idea of World War III has been pure propaganda.
And I think that's an important point, Kevin, is you keep coming back to stop saying World War III. That's not what this is. Stop.
You yelled at me about that just the other day.
Just stop. Stop saying it.
There is no scenario. First of all, it's been a couple of days already. Iran has already done whatever it is they can do in terms of touching and hurting Israel, launching those rockets. They've launched rockets. They're almost out. And then the ones Israel has destroyed. I mean, Iran is basically just a sitting duck. Israel, in a couple of days, has established air superiority over Iran. They can do whatever they want. They can hit whatever they want. Iran is not a military threat unless they have nuclear weapons, right? That is why they would use their proxy groups and their militias. That's why they are a threat to people in the region, because they have Hezbollah and all that type of stuff. But in terms of military capability outside of nuclear weapons, they're not a threat to us, right? And that's why we keep saying we will not let you get nuclear weapons, because then that makes you a legitimate military threat. So in a World War III scenario, Iran isn't even a player. They're just not that good. Like I said, they still had F-14s from the 70s.
From what I understand, they only have 2,000 missiles that they can launch. They've launched a good number of those already against Israel, but their launchers, about a third of their launchers have been destroyed. So Israel has been effective in destroying the mechanism for the launching. And so even though it looks like you see all these videos on X where Tel Aviv is just going up in flames and being pummeled, a lot of what you're seeing in the skies is the efforts of the Israelis to shoot down the bombs, but they're at about a 90 to 95% effective rate of shooting down these missiles
and drones.
and drones. But Iran only has so much firepower. And so like I think the last couple of nights they've reduced it to maybe only like 25 to 40 missiles that they've sent over because they got to ration these things or they were going to burn through them in a week.
Yeah.
And so they're not like a big, huge military superpower, but the nuclear thing is what makes it difficult.
I'm raising my hand for the normal people because and there's a question in the chat, like, do we know for sure Iran has nuclear weapons? That's my question. Like,
no, they don't.
Not that Iran has nuclear weapons, but how you know what these people got? They only had 2,000 bombs. They only got 191 missile launchers. How you know? I got stuff in my bedroom. You don't know what I got. Like, how do we know for sure? And I think that's like, as I talk to others, that's a question that's come up of like, the normal person doesn't think the way y'all three think. Mm-hmm. They not on X. They not looking at all these things. They taking their kids to school and trying to make dinner and just earn a living. And so when you hear someone say, well, you know, Iran only has 13 missiles and 6 good army people, I think the regular person like me is like, how you know though, friend? How you know?
Because we keep tabs on our enemies. Like I said, there are people,
and I think this is a good point. That's why I want you to make that the point.
So the U.S. military is broken up into COCOMs, and so we have U.S. Central Command that is in charge of the Middle East, and there are intel analysts whose job is to focus on particular areas and in particular things, and so we use intelligence resources to keep eyes on our enemies. We know what their general production capability is. We know how many, based on certain signs and things, are operational at a time. You know, we watch their patterns. We spy on people. That's what we do.
Oh, yeah. And Raquel is making that comment in the chat. There are other branches in government, FBI, CIA, and NSA. Yes. So I appreciate that, but I got to hold it down for us in the regular choir members. Y'all be up here with the mic. We just a regular choir, and we are trying to understand.
So, and John's continuing to spout a lot
John,
of.
John is either a bot or someone who is just completely that last comment. I'm ignoring John.
No, it's making it interesting. But I think that what's interesting to me is that the videos on X look like Tel Aviv is going up in flames, but when you compare what's happening and the amount of missiles that are being shot down and compare the casualties, it's just there's nowhere near the same.
Ask yourself this: what objective is Iran accomplishing? What have they taken out? Right? It might look bad, like, oh, they hit an apartment building, oh, they hit something, but they haven't made any military gains. They haven't taken out anything. And like I said, Israel is the one who can fly to Iran, hit targets, and come home. Iran can't do that. And so all they have is missiles.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sorry. I thought you took a break. You know me from often. You take a breath, and here I am. Wait. And Devin got his finger raised like he about to exit Black church.
My old Pentecostal finger. I'm reformed now, but you know, I still got a Pentecostal finger, you know. I wanted to say the other thing to note here is that you look at how surgical Israel has been. Clearly they had a lot of intelligence, to kind of comment on that intelligence piece. There are many Iranians who would probably want to be called Persians. I had a good friend, one of my best friends in high school was from Iran, but he made sure if you ever said that, he's like, I am Persian. He's like, don't ever call me Iranian. I am Persian. And he was very serious about that. So, you know, he's one of the folks who, you know, did not like what happened. I think he and his mom probably were refugees of that situation in the States. But there's help, right? So Mossad is working with people on the inside who are giving them intel. That's how they know a lot of these things. Israel has been so surgical with what they've done. They have minimized civilian casualties so much. What they have done has, I mean, really A movie ought to be made about it. The level, I could geek out about the level of precision with which they carried this stuff out. I mean, this is James Bond type stuff.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to say something for John and his ilk in the chat, right?
Oh, let me sit back. Yeah, I'm going to sit back.
Because right, they do this whole narrative thing, right? And it's all performative. But who do you know that's some type of raging psycho regime that actually tells people to get out of an area that they're going to strike? Who does that? Israel does that. They do it in Gaza. They did it in Tehran. They told the people of Tehran to leave the city because they were going to strike. They gave them a heads up, right? No one does that except Israel. And yet people like John will come in the chat or have this opinion that Israel is like, or stupid Candace Owens, oh, they're committing genocide and all this type of stuff. How do you try to commit genocide on somebody when you warning them you're going to strike a certain area and to move and get out? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so that's what propaganda does. Propaganda makes you ignore the truth to believe the lie, right? Because, oh, look at these people died. Israel isn't intentionally targeting civilians. That's not what's happening, right? Civilians get killed in war. There is no war on planet Earth where civilians have not gotten killed. And when you're talking about urban warfare and there are 2 million Gazans in the area of Gaza, or 2 million Palestinians, I should call them, in the area of Gaza, right? That is a very dense population, and you've got fighting going on. Civilians are gonna die. That's just the part. You do your best to limit that, and that's what Israel does, but it can't be zero, right? It just can't be. And so the fact that Israel send out text messages and make announcements for people to leave areas that they're going to strike, you can't then come back and try to make these claims that this is some murderous regime going after civilians. The facts just have to, you got to stand on the facts and not the propaganda and the talking points. Because that's the thing. To me, it's not about being anti-Israel, pro-Israel, anti-Iran, pro-Iran. That has nothing to do with it. It's about, can you objectively look at the situation and say who's justified, who's not, right? And Mo, you were bringing up, it's like you hit somebody and you go run the brother. Israel didn't hit first. That's why I brought up the point that this is about October 7th.
Yeah,
Iran hit first. Nobody was messing with Iran. Nobody. Iran has been the instigator. Yeah, they have been the instigator in this whole thing because they've got this stupid mantra about death to Israel and death to America and all this type of stuff. And that's the thing about negotiations. There is no negotiating a religiously fanatic, zealous regime away from their religious goals. Because this is the thing. For Iranian religious prophecy to be fulfilled, there has to be a war with the West, right? And for their messianic figure to come back, that war has to take place. They are hell-bent on making it happen. Correct. So this idea that we think we can have peace or we can negotiate with them off of their goals, you can't, because it's religiously motivated, right? This isn't just some head of state that's trying to do the best they can for their people and all. No, this is a religious regime under a religious figure, the Ayatollah, and their goals are religious driven. And so, yeah, they want a nuclear weapon because they see that as an end to their means that they want to see accomplished. In terms of wiping Israel off the map. And so go ahead, Krista.
Yeah. So why did Tulsi Gabbard, in the head of our intelligence in March, say that, Iran does not have a nuclear weapon? Like,
because they don't.
Why? So
but this is what they are doing.
You don't feel like that's in contradiction?
No one has said they have it. So this is what the IAEA even reported. So what they're doing is enriching uranium way past what they need to. So if you have a civilian nuclear program, you only have to enrich uranium between 3 to 5% for civilian non-military use. Iran is enriching their uranium up to 60%. The only reason you do that is you're trying to make your way towards a nuclear bomb. That's it. There's no
1000%.
other reason to do that other than you are working towards a nuclear weapon. And so that's what the red flag is. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to try to, play the game. Yes, the nuclear thing is an excuse. It is an excuse to go ahead and take out an enemy while they're vulnerable. That's why I laid out the situation. Their proxies are gone. Their main ally in Syria is gone, and they're vulnerable. And so it's like, this is the opportunity to strike those areas they wanted to strike in terms of their nuclear program. And if they so choose to go that far, regime change. But it's only because the situation has played itself. And not only has the situation played itself, Iran played themselves. They played themselves on October 7th when they funded this attack against Israel, and they gave Israel the legal and moral authority to come at them. And now that Israel is, they're effing around, they're finding out. And so I don't want to hear no whining.
But why does this all feel a little bit like a deja vu to 2002? Because we were told back in 2002 we must invade Iraq because they have weapons of mass destruction, which has turned out to be a very questionable claim, from what I understand. And you can go back and for 20 years and see videos of Bibi Netanyahu saying Iran's only 2 weeks away from having a nuclear bomb. Well, we've been waiting a long time and it hasn't happened. So it's like, am I being played? Am I being lied to?
Some of it is, but this is what I will say. You have to remember, this isn't the first time Israel has struck Iran's nuclear capabilities to set them back. They've been playing this setback game for a long time. This isn't the first time they've done airstrikes. They've done targeted assassinations in the past to take out their lead scientists. And they've also done major cyber attacks to shut them down and set them back. They have been playing this setback game for a long time. It's not like, nothing has happened for the last 20 years and Iran just hasn't gotten there yet. No, Israel has been setting them back.
Come on, Kevin.
No,
you gotta admit,
I'm
that's
not,
weird.
no.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That Bibi Netanyahu constantly says, and you can go on X and see clips that people have put together of him saying, from starting in like the early 2000s, saying that Iran is 2 weeks, quote unquote, 2 weeks away. And he's still spouting that. It causes me to not trust him, that he is not a transparent person who tells the truth. This concerns me.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, no, he's making his calls. He's making his argument to get people involved. But it's the thing, we're not getting involved off of what Benjamin Netanyahu says or his intelligence. We have our own. Right? We will make our own assessment and judgment about what's best for us based on our intelligence assessments, not his and not his words. People are getting way too caught up in what he's saying as Americans. He doesn't drive American foreign policy. He just doesn't,
Okay, so you're not of the opinion that he's behind the scenes pulling the strings, and that's because there is a narrative that that there's Israel funded entities that fund our politicians in our country and pay them money, and that this is why they're pulling the strings on this. And so your argument is, no, we're doing this because of our own intelligence and our own reasons and our own interests.
And it's the thing. Everybody has lobbyist groups.
That's the word I'm looking for, lobbyist groups.
Yeah, everybody has lobbyist groups. The fact that Israel or Jewish Zionists, whatever, have lobbyist groups, so does everyone. But whose interest wins out? What decisions are made? Like, everybody doesn't get what they want. Because at the end of the day, the president or the government or congressman or whoever has to have some type of backing, authority, political will to do whatever it is being done. And like I said, it's just not there yet in terms of us. Nobody wants boots on the ground. And this whole thing about, is it World War III and stuff like that? That's what I'll go back to, because I didn't finish my point. I talked about Iran. Russia has shown that they can't defeat Ukraine with a couple of sticks and arrows in a war. They've been in a stalemate for 3 years with Ukraine. You really think Russia wants to get into a war with NATO in the West? They do not. Yeah. They do not. They do not have the ability to win that fight. They just don't want to.
Yeah.
And they've been exposed, as we thought, big bad Russia, because of they have the toys. They just can't fight a war. They don't know what they're doing. Same thing with China. Well, I say same thing with China, potentially same thing with China. China has the toys. China has 5th generation fighters. They have subs. They have aircraft carriers now. They have the toys, but they also have never been in a major conflict since like Vietnam when they got involved. Like, they have not fought a war. Good or bad, we're good at it because we do it a lot. Like, executing a war is not an easy thing to do. It is the ultimate and the epitome of logistics, right? And everybody can't pull that off. Everybody can't do it. And so we don't know what China's capable of. But in terms of a world war, there's just not an axis of evil out there to oppose the West, regardless of how bad people want there to be. Like I said, it's just not there. And so, this idea of a World War III, that is this new, I'm gonna call it the isolationist right and MAGA and all this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, I get the feeling this is foreign infiltration influencing U.S. politics, because this isn't organic. Too many people are posting the same things and saying the same things for this to be some type of organic type of thing. And if I had to guess, I would say it's Russia, because anytime you have to ask yourself who benefits from who benefits from us being anti-Ukraine? Russia does, right? Who benefits to the U.S. being isolationist and pulling out of the rest of the world? China does, right? And so you've got a lot of people online spouting things that they've been sold to by bots and foreign governments. Everybody's trying to shape U.S. foreign policy because what we do affects the entire world. And the people who are going to benefit from a U.S. isolationist policy is going to be Russia and China. No one else, not America. We're not going to benefit from that. And so that's just what
I don't know. I don't know what to believe, Kevin. I'm just going to say that for real. Like, I don't know what to believe. It's very hard to discern. And I think the downside of podcasters is that there's a lot of voices now. And it's hard to know what's real. It's hard to know who's funding what, or who has an agenda, or who's just stupid or uninformed. It's really hard to figure out what's real. And
it is.
And I want to believe you that, you know, some people are funded by outside entities, and that's part of the confusion, and China's a bigger concern than Iran. I just think that for the regular person, we have to put so much trust in these people that we have no contact with, who are our leaders, and we have no meaningful way of communicating with them and saying, like, hey, you're using an awful lot of my hard-earned dollars to do things that I don't know are necessarily in my best interest. I'm much more concerned about the fact that my taxes are high and crime is rising in my area, and these seem like much more imminent concerns to me than blowing up an underground nuclear situation and getting into the ethics of that policy. I don't know. It's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Monique wants to say something.
Go ahead, Mo.
But mine is on a different topic. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'll just say, I mean, like, I'll just go back to the point of none of those issues are dependent on what we do foreign policy wise. They just aren't. Those are completely separate issues. The crime in America has nothing to do with what we do with Iran or don't do with Iran, or what we spend on the military. Those are just issues that don't have anything largely a lot of times to do with the federal government. Or even like our taxes, right? What did we just do with Doge? We found all this wasteful spending and all this kind of stuff. What happened with the spending bill? It went up.
They spent more money.
They spent more money.
Because they want to spend money, because spending money makes them look like heroes, right? So it really, I mean, that really is, you're right. And Chris, I totally understand your point that it's hard to know who to trust, because it's easier than ever for so many different people to have a voice. It's one of the reasons why sometimes I sit back and reflect that I have cheat codes because Kevin's my co-host. So he was in intelligence for 22 years. I get a little bit more of a balanced perspective. I have other friends in the military as well, who I talk to, and I think that the important thing for us to remember is that I think about this. I've never been in the military. But I think about this from a self-defense standpoint, right? With the information that I have, and I'm a little bit of a self-defense nut, and when you think about when you have an enemy who is they've stated that their intent is to take you out. They are willing to use methods that are underground, that are difficult to track. They are going to use vulnerabilities, et cetera. And you have an opportunity to cut off their ability to proliferate. Because, with the enriching uranium thing, it's basically like Iran is sitting there and they got a magazine in their hand and they're loading bullets in it. And we're sitting there telling hey, y'all can't get a gun. They're like, oh, we're not building a gun, while they're in your face. To use a phrase that Monique will understand, they playing in our face.
Right.
They are loading the gun in our face, and they're basically, oh, we're not building a gun. We're not loading a gun right now. And it's evident. We know because of our cooperation with Israel and other intelligence agencies that they do have these underground bunkers. They are enriching uranium to try to produce a nuclear weapon. They don't have it yet. And I'm pretty much, like Kev, to be honest with you, even if that is an excuse, I'm just like, hey, you're not going to sit here and load the magazine in my face. You're not going to do that. And then potentially have already sent people across the border.
You know what? Yeah, when we did that? We did that in the 90s. We did it in the 1990s under Clinton. Al-Qaeda declared war on us. They bombed the World Trade Center the first time.
Yep.
They bombed the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia and killed a bunch of airmen in the dorms. They bombed our embassies in Africa. They bombed the USS Cole. They did a lot of stuff because they had declared war on us, and we were like, okay, we're ignoring it. Clinton doesn't want to get into anything. He don't want to take any action because this group is whatever. And it took something like 9/11 to happen for us to go, oh, wait, these people hate us? I didn't know, right? Iran has declared war on us. And we can keep taking tit for tats, and we can keep acting like it don't matter, and they're no big deal until we shouldn't have to have a 9/11 type event to happen before we take somebody serious who says death to America and then is actively working towards goals to make that come about. And like I said,
quick,
Kev, go ahead.
I mean, you brought up 9/11. I mean, that makes me think back to World War II. What did it take for the United States to get involved in World War II? Because we didn't want to get involved. We thought it didn't matter. And then Pearl Harbor. And that's when we got involved. And so I think
I'm just burned out on that argument, Devin. I'm old. I lived through 2003, and that was the exact same talking points they told us about weapons of mass destruction. We must invade Iraq. And I just don't trust what my government is telling me anymore about reasons to invade. It just
Krista, I don't blame you. But I understand why the Bush administration did what they did. I don't agree with it, but I understand what their strategy was after 9/11. So after 9/11, the Bush administrations, so go back to Bush's war on terror speech and listen to what he talks about. He said, this is not a short war. This is a war of our children and of our grandchildren. He wasn't talking about
But Bush also was the one who told us that Islam was a religion of peace. And I believed that for years, that it was a religion of peace. And I don't believe that anymore. And so I just feel like I have been lied to over and over and over again. And now you're telling me, well, trust the military, trust Trump. And I'm like, I feel
I'm not
like
necessarily telling you trust Trump. I'm saying stop using talking points from our enemies. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
but
stop with this. And then I'll be honest. Let's be honest. 2020 broke the right. The political right has been broken since 2020. Ever since we learned about they were lying to us about COVID, we have believed this thing that we can believe nothing of the government. And we should be skeptical of the government, but we have bought into the worst ideas you can imagine to justify this idea of isolationism. We need to pull it back from the world. And you don't have to trust Trump. Look at the situation for yourself. Make your own analysis, right? But it's the thing.
I'm sorry. I'm just repeating what they said this morning at the press conference with that young gal. I can't remember her name. Her name escapes me.
Levitt.
Levitt, the 28-year-old. And her bottom line to the reporters was trust Trump.
Oh, that's always going to be, that's what she's gonna say.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
no.
Well, that's your answer to
I'll say this.
my concern about endless wars is trust Trump. Like,
see, that's the thing. It's not an endless war. No one's talking about a full-fledged war with Iran. Iran's already done. They have no, once someone wins air superiority, the war is over. Israel has already won this quote unquote war. It's about, will we go in there and hit this nuclear site for them, right? Or will we back them hitting regime change and causing disruption in that country? That is the only. Nobody's talking about full-fledged war. Nobody's that is not on the table. It's just not. It's just a matter of what will our involvement be, right? Because on that one bunker, Israel does not, on that one nuclear site, Israel does not have the capability to hit it as deep as it's buried, right? And so, but nobody's talking about full-fledged war because the war is already over. Iran is done. They're done.
Israel did the hard work. I mean,
yes.
I mean, let's just say that Israel did. It is the cheapest that it's ever going to be for us to deal with this thing. It's the cheapest it's ever going to be because they did so much work already.
Yeah. And so go ahead, Mo. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm saying it's just a matter of, do we help them continue to take out that nuclear site, or do we allow regime change? Because I do think Israel, not that they're dependent on us for regime change, but I don't think they will take out Iran's top leadership. Taking out the Ayatollah is a big deal. Yeah. And I don't know if they would do that without our thumbs up, go ahead. It's just a big deal. And so that's really what's on the table. But there is no U.S. endless war. We're going into Iran and that's not on the table. So go ahead, Mo.
So let's talk about this from just the practicality standpoint. Like, we know that war of any type, whether it's boots on the ground, whether it's a 3-day war or a 3-year war, there's going to be some kind of cost to us, whether it's lives, finances, like whatever it is, like there's going to be some cost to it. And so it makes me wonder, like, one, just as far as time, like, are we looking at something that's like, this is going to be 30 minutes because FAFO? Or are we looking at something like we still need to, they know where things are, but it's going to take some strategy and some time. And we might be in this for 6 months. We could be at this for a year. Or, you know how like after war now, then we put people on the ground to help clean up stuff and all that. Like what are we looking at just as far as like the real time? If I was persuaded to say, yeah, like I actually think we should go in because of their stated intent against America, because love Israel, but I am looking at this first from a homeland perspective as an American.
And that's why
we're,
and that's what it is. It's not even about Israel totally. It's about, okay, we get to take out one of our biggest enemies in the world and reduce them to where they're, like I said, they're not a military threat. And their proxies have been taken out. The only thing that is left is nuclear.
Oh, John says they're just getting started. It's
what?
Who's just getting started?
Iran. They're just getting started.
Oh man! So he's a fan. He's a Ayatollah fanboy over here. Okay.
Yeah. He drinks the Ayatollah Kool-Aid. Iran is done. Like I said, once you lose air superiority and people can fly over your country and drop bombs wherever they want, you have lost. There's nothing you can do. You can put troops out there if you want to. You can't protect them. They're going to be sitting ducks. There's nothing Iran can do at this point other than sit there and pray. That's it. And so, in terms of targets and stuff, how long it would take, it depends on what the objective would be. But I'm not gonna say Israel has really taken them out in a couple of days. I don't know how many more of those nuclear type targets there are they want to take out, but I don't know, a week. Like it's just not a whole lot left to do. And if we're not talking about regime change, we're just talking about, look, let's just take out their ability to produce their drones. Let's take out their ability. Let's hit this factory and that factory. Let's significantly limit them, because you got to remember, especially their drone production. They're doing a lot of drone production for the Russians fighting Ukraine. Like Russia needs help from Iran to produce enough stuff that they need to fight against Ukraine. Russia is that's why this whole World War III thing is crazy. But if we just want to go
I'm sorry I sent you the text for the fourth time asking about World War III. you ain't got to keep throwing me under that bus.
No, that's not coming from you. It's coming from the Candace Owens of the world. It's coming from the Hodge twins. It's coming from Tucker Carlson. It's coming from people who are supposed to know better, but I guarantee you they're being paid to say this stuff. And now I do not believe these people are stupid or crazy. I believe they're paid and they're grifters. And
so your theory is that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are being paid?
Oh, I definitely think Candace Owens is.
I do, because there's no way. She's too intelligent to say the things she says and to believe. Like this whole thing about World War III. Like, come on.
What's her face? What's her face? The Asian girl who wound up she was being paid.
Laura Chan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lauren Chen was being paid.
Yes.
It turns out that she was actually being paid by Russia.
Qatar.
It was Qatar.
It was Qatar. Yes.
Wow. Man,
yes.
And we just accepted a plane. Okay.
Social media and influencers have opened up a whole new world of not just espionage, but propaganda. Like, how do you influence a nation, right? And whether people know it or not, especially like through the algorithms, right? The algorithms will determine what it is you post or put out there, because you're trying to gain clicks and likes and what gets boosted. So if Death to America is what gets you boosted to the top of the algorithms, you're going to post Death to America as an example, right? That's what a lot of these influencers are doing, right? They're posting the things they know will get them the attention, right? Some of them I do believe some of them are funded, whether they know it or not, through, I don't think it's the Qatari government going, hey, here's some money. It's usually a third party, some company or some other shell thing over here that's then funneling the money to drive a certain narrative, right? And that's just how it works.
If anyone would like to drive our narrative at the Center for Biblical Unity, make those debts payable.
Don't play no games.
You can send a P.O. Box 811, Upper California. That's all the address you'll need.
Okay.
P.O. Box.
Inform Takes Cash App
we will share with Inform Take. Don't play no games.
I think that I don't know if we want to. I want to say something. There was a commenter. I don't know if this person's still here. I don't even know if it's a good faith comment, but let's say a little bit about the fact that we are Christians. Some people are on here saying horrified that we're, talking about war.
The devil is a whole lie.
I think we have to have a little bit of a conversation from a Christian perspective about, why do we think that this is important, and the principle of, protecting the innocent and punishing the guilty. I'm hoping we can all just acknowledge that these Islamo extremists, like they're not wanting to snuggle up to us. Like they have bad intentions for us. Their plan is domination of the world, to bring every nation under Sharia law. Mm-hmm. Like that is the plan. That is the goal. And so even if we don't deal with them, we have to understand that they hate us, and that their goal for extremist governments like, that are currently in places in the Middle East, that these people don't love us. They don't love our way of life. They don't love our worldview, and they will not stop until our way of life comes under Sharia law. Like, that's the alternative. And so people like John and other people in the comments, like, I just, when they want to have this conversation, what confuses me about their position is, well, what's the alternative? Is if we don't, we have to acknowledge that these people do not want us. They want to destroy us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would take it a step further and say that it's not, it's about Sharia law, but, the real goal is the complete annihilation of America. Like, they see us as the threat to just completely take out. And I would say that some of them don't even believe we are a threat. Like, they're just waiting for the opportune time to be able to wipe us out.
Yeah, it basically comes down to this. It is about the U.S.'s global hegemony, our power, our global power throughout the world. And they don't like that we hinder them from their goals, right? Mm-hmm. For instance, they believe that they could take out Israel if it wasn't for Israel's backing and funding and weaponization from the United States. So they're angry at us because they can't destroy Israel because of us, right? Russia is angry at us because they can't bully and manipulate their neighbors around them because of this NATO pact, right? China is angry because they can't bully and manipulate their neighbors and control the South China Sea because we're there, right? That is what this is about. These people have their own goals, agendas, world domination plans, everybody wants to be what the U.S. is, right? That's all I'm going to say. So if the U.S. gives up their seat, someone's going to fill that seat. We're not going to Kumbaya land, people, right? So if you think the America pulling back from the global stage and becoming this isolationist and thinking we got two big oceans and we don't need the rest of the world and we're just going to build everything we need here, we can grow our own food, forget the rest of the world, that is not the way this thing is going to work, right? Everywhere we pull out of, China is going to move into, right? If we pull out of, Europe, Russia is going to insert their influence and try to rebuild the Soviet Union again, right? That's what this is about. And so the fact that we stand in the way, what the Western powers stand in the way of shaping, global politics, I guess you can say, they don't like it. And because everybody else wants to be their own king as well. And so if we give up the mantle, okay, let's give it up, but just know someone else is going to take it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Devin.
It's their show.
I know. I'm sorry.
We visitors.
We in the visitor section. Y'all on here.
Well, somebody already said the white lady, calling me a white lady, so I was gonna talk
snap.
even more.
Oh, snap, man!
Oh, it's about to get real lit up in here, y'all.
I mean, well, yeah.
I'm on here with 3 black people.
Who said
that? Take a drink.
So I will say that the whole idea of us pulling away from being involved in the rest of the world, like I'm not what they call a neocon, I guess. I don't even care that they call it a neocon because it's generally folks that I don't think have a very informed opinion about geopolitics and what's a threat versus what's not a threat. But I do think that there was some value in us showing that we were not just going to continue writing a blank check to Ukraine, for instance. Because look what happened. All of a sudden, Europe formed a backbone, right? Yeah. So us saying we're not just going to keep funding this thing. We need to figure something out. All of a sudden, the UK decided that they were going to step up. All of a sudden, these other countries decided they were going to step up, which, for as many things as I may disagree with President Trump on, I mean, he's been consistent on essentially saying Europe needs to start paying way more of their own defense bill. They cannot continue to expect us to basically be the thing that stands between them and getting run over by Russia or China, et cetera. And so I think that there is a point to us not deciding that we're just going to endlessly fund things. I think that this particular conflict, you know, I will state the thing that Devin wishes will happen. I do want us to drop that 30,000 pound buster bunker and take out that nuclear facility. That's basically what I want us to do. I want us to go and make sure that we drop that thing, and otherwise just let Israel finish the job. You know, they are an ally of ours. I also think that it's extremely important that we remember that we are not invincible, that we do need allies. And when some of the isolationist arguments, I think, ignore the fact that if we just say we're going to abandon people that we actually have agreements with, that's going to come back to bite us one day, because I believe we reap what we sow. If we said that we were going to show up if the stuff goes down, and then when the stuff goes down, we don't, that's lack of character on our part. And I think that if we're gonna be able to say we have allies, if we're gonna say we have friends, we got to show ourselves friendly, or we need to terminate some agreements. But we can't just decide that we're not going to mount up when the stuff gets tough just because it's not convenient for us at any given time if we've actually entered into agreements. But I will say that we should not mount up if there's not a real interest. And I don't think that we're doing this, but we should not mount up if there's not a real interest and there's not a prior agreement in place. But I don't think that we're doing that.
We're not. Go ahead, Krista.
I just think that I find it fascinating in the comments. I made a statement about Islamofascist governments and wanting to dominate the world. None of the people who are taking issue with what we're saying responded to that. They just started spewing more Jewish hate. And their Jewish hate is blinding them from the bigger picture of the agenda, of the actual agenda, that the goal of these Islamic extremists, which arguably could be that they're living out their faith more consistently than their progressive alternatives. Their goal is Sharia law for every nation. That is the goal. Yeah. And then people just go right back to the spewing Jew hate. So I mean, that is the position that we're in. I think that version of Islam is simply not compatible with the Western worldview and our way of life. And because that's not going to work.
That vision of life, that worldview has really no clear vision for the dignity, value, and worth of human life. And that's something that we do have here in the West. We don't have it perfectly, but we do have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I'll say too, from a military standpoint. There's a reason we are pushing our European allies to step up with the whole Ukraine situation, is because we believe that they should be able to deal with Russia without us, right? Especially given what Russia has shown themselves to be. Okay, y'all got this. We're going to go over here. We aren't looking to get into the Middle East. We have really drawn down in the Middle East. That is not our focus right now. This is a one-time, okay, we'll come over here and help you out with this situation type deal. This is no long-term bed down war. Our focus is in one place and one place only, and that's in China. And we are looking to move everything to the Pacific, and we're going to point everything at China, because that's our enemy now, right? Because China has once again declared war on us, right? Not a hot war, but we are their target. They have decided to take on us economically, politically, and militarily. Everything they're doing to build up their military is to fight us. Their economic goals and everything they're doing is to challenge us. And so while we were busy with the war on terror in the Middle East, China became a power. And we said, okay, you wanted our attention, you got it. And so we are drawing down everywhere else in the world, and we are focusing not all of our resources, but the vast majority of our resources and our efforts are based on what is the next war. And in our mind, that next war is China. And we are looking to, establish old connections over there. That area of the world has got our attention. And so we are not abandoning that for some Iran war, go in, boots on the ground, a mass war. The U.S. government and military has no interest in that. But they're just people screaming from the rooftop because they just don't want us to do anything. A lot of it is Jew hate. A lot of it is. But some of it is just complete. There's so much misinformation out there as to, number one, what Iran is as a military power, and two, what our involvement could be. I've heard people talk about, man, this could really escalate things. We can get bogged down in a real war. I'm like, man, that war be over in 3 days, right? And so
again, why must you reveal our texts?
Because this is what I'll say. People like the Iraq war. The Iraq war, that war didn't last long. We called it a war after that. But no, the actual war part lasted a few weeks. We destroyed their military, right? It was, okay, we're going to go in here. We're going to do regime change. We've made a lot of mistakes in terms of we disbanded their military. We did all of these things. We're going to rebuild this country from scratch. And that was a horrible mistake. It was the nation building that we got bogged down with, not the war. The war is over really quick. In the military, we got 2 jobs: break things, kill people. We're really good at doing that. Building nations up, that's not what we're trained to do, right?
Yeah.
And so the breaking thing part, we're good at war. We can go in there and take some stuff out and defeat another military. It is the nation building that we do not want to get bogged down again, and no one is talking about doing that. And so people PTSD from Afghanistan and Iraq, that was nation building. That was not about this.
You don't feel like this is that. You feel like this is different than that.
No, this
Do
is.
you feel like there's lessons learned like that from those mistakes?
We have no interest in nation building. That's why I'm kind of on the fence about whether to let them take out Iran's leadership and actually do regime change, because not that we would be involved with it, but is it better to do regime change, or is it better to leave the current regime in place, just completely take out their capabilities to where they're no longer a threat, and now they're just shouting death to America into a void without being a real threat, at least for the next 20 years?
My position would be like, why not both?
Because it doesn't work. I just don't think that regime change and nation building from outsiders, it just hasn't worked.
No, why not? Yeah, force regime change, but also hit the bunker. Like, that's
what we did in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Well, if we do regime change, there's no need to hit the bunker, because if we do regime change, we can go in there. We can take out their nuclear program because they did regime change. The issue with Iran is just their regime.
I feel like it has to be an inside job. Like, the people have to want it.
Yes.
Like it was in the Soviet Union, where Reagan said, tear down this wall. He denuked things. But then those people had to overthrow Ceausescu and all of those corrupt leaders. And they had to rebuild their own nations.
Yes.
But when we come in from the West and start doing that, I just think that that's not a good idea.
Yeah, this is what I know, Deb, you got to say something, but this is what I'll say. The only thing I would be concerned with, I brought up the whole IRGC thing, right? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The Hezbollah forces that are in Iraq that fought against us, they were trained by the IRGC. Those people are loyal also to the supreme leader of Iran. And so you could have what's the word I'm looking for? Basically those forces could go into Iran, insurgency. You could have an insurgency of Shia militia Hezbollah groups that are loyal to the current regime, that are anti-West, that will be against any type of democracy or anything like that coming into Iran. And you could see those people coming in and fighting. It just depends on what the Iranian military will do.
So then it would make sense to hit the bunker.
Yes.
And Kevin,
y'all, Devin is like that kid in the classroom. He like, oh, me next.
Right. So I just have one thing to add on that. It's something that my mentor said to me that I'd never really considered about the whole war on terror in Iraq, Afghanistan, et cetera. How many, he's like, we want to go over there and we want to try to establish democracy. To your point, Chris, it's got to be an inside job. He asked the question, how many Thomas Jeffersons you got over there? How many Ben Franklins? How many George Washingtons you got? Because if you don't, you're not going to set up a liberal representative republic over there. You're not going to do it. And so, I am team hit the bunker, get out. I'm team hit the bunker, get out. If Israel wants to engage in regime change, cool. Bibi's putting his messages over the airwaves, trying to get the Persians to rise up. Like Kevin said, the name of the operation, the whole point of this is to try to get the Persian people to take their country over. Last number I heard, they still make up 2/3 of the population there. They're still the majority of the population. But yeah, I think that the problem is that it's a cultural thing. There is a Shah who is in exile. There's the old government is in exile. Right. They're waiting in the wings. They're not perfect, right? They did. He made
an appearance on X yesterday with a little recorded message.
That's right. Yep, he did. Yeah. But they had corruption problems. They did squash dissent. So there were some similar problems. However, to your point earlier, Krista, they did do a lot of things that made them look more like the West than it does right now. And so if we're talking about lesser of two evils, probably
I feel like that's for the people to sort out.
That's 100% right. I am 100% with you on that.
And I'll say this too, just like in the U.S., most places have this divide. So there is this call for democracy because you say, who's there, Thomas Jefferson and all that type of stuff. They have those people who are Western educated. They believe in these principles of freedom and liberty, and they studied in college in Europe or the U.S. and they went back and or they're in the university in these cities and they think that way. But that element might not be enough of the people in a country with 90 million people, right? It's usually this divide between the urban and the rural, right? And so you can have this urban, liberal, progressive, we want to be like the West vibe, but that doesn't mean that the vast majority of the country is feeling that way. It's kind of like if you just took a snapshot of New York and said, this is what America is feeling and believing, Right. Yeah, you can get a lot of people to rise up in New York and chant something, and someone right outside they're going like, no, we're not down with that. Right. And so we do have to be careful in terms of, because you can see a lot of these different protests and stuff on camera, in the news and stuff. But a lot of times that is the urban, educated, largely pro-Western type thinking people who want to be from under the thumb of the regime. But that doesn't mean that is the vast majority of the country, is what I'll say.
Yeah. And I think that, like I said at the beginning, like we don't know how many people, we know roughly how many people are in Iran, 93 million, but we don't know what all of those people believe. Like there's a growing Christian presence.
Absolutely.
There's massive revival happening there. And according to Grok, when I was looking into that yesterday, like nobody really knows what those numbers are. They think maybe 1 million, but it could be much more than that. But there's also they're estimating about 8% of the population are atheists because they've left Islam, but they don't want to have anything to do with Islam, but they're just nothing. And so we don't want to make the assumption that everybody is for the regime. Like there's a percentage, as I said at the top, like expats here in America that are Persian and, they remember their home country very fondly, that are not fans of the current regime and they want their country back. We just don't know how many people are in the country today in Iran that, feel that way. Like we don't know what these percentages really are. And so I think that that's another variable, but those things have to come from within in the people themselves of how they want to be ruled. I
That's
think.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Kev, so we're at 9:45. We got Liam for another 15 minutes here.
I got one more question.
Oh gosh, Liam,
Yeah.
we might be paying you overtime, friend. I'm sorry. Hold up.
So here's
Y'all, we gonna pass the collection plate around on Liam's behalf.
Here's another issue is that I see a lot of Christians on social media. They're like, well, the only reason we should support Israel is for biblical reasons. They're special people.
That's what I wanted to go
special
to.
country.
Yeah.
We've got to address this.
That was my question. Because I can't.
Because none of our arguments here for the last almost 2 hours have been about, we need to stand for Iraq because what we learned in Sunday school, Ted Cruz, about, they're God's special people. Like that's not what we're arguing. We're arguing more of a geopolitical strategy of and none of us are here to say and be apologists that Israel is not a corrupt government on some level, or that they may not have just policies. Like none of what we've said today is that Israel is a perfect country, and like none of these things are our arguments. I don't know. Maybe Kevin, you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah. The nation of Israel that exists today is not the Israel of Scripture, or any version of Israel prophesied. Let's just get that out the way. That doesn't mean that from a United States perspective and our foreign policy goals and our national security objectives that they aren't an ally that we support, but it has no biblical foundation in terms of this is Israel. And I'm not going to get into the whole theology of it, just that because that's a whole class, but this nation of Israel doesn't have any ties or significance to Scripture. I just want to say that.
Man.
And I will say this version of Israel is a very secular state.
Correct.
Right? Most conservative Christians would not really like it there. Tel Aviv is a lot like San Francisco.
Right.
That's right.
right.
And so it is a very liberal, secular society with a lot of other like religious people there, and people go there for religious, things and sites and things that are there. But the nation itself and the government itself is very secular, is very liberal. And it's not what people think it is in terms of, it's not the Israel of the Bible. It's not even a conservative like place. It's very liberal and secular. But it's a lot like Europe, if I had to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, they come in the comments. They want to know. They're like, please get into the
theology.
theology.
I can say it very quickly, like that Israel as a nation in the Bible is just not the same thing as what we're dealing with today. And it is a secular Jewish government that we're dealing with, but there's people from all faiths, all ethnicities that live in Israel.
Yes.
And it is a secular government, although they do give a nod, much like we do. We give a nod to Christianity at times where we have public prayers or we say, God bless America. And they have a kind of a nod to Judaism of Sabbath laws and a deference for Jewish practices and Jewish holidays. But there's Arabs that live there. There's Christians that live there. And even within Judaism, there's variety. There's secular Jews, there's atheist Jews, there's Orthodox Jews, and there's kind of in between. There's progressive liberal Jews. And so the thing about Judaism is that it's a religion and ethnicity. It's like having a suitcase and you're unpacking it, and there's a lot to unpack. There's culture and ethnicity and religion, and Jewish people can take advantage of everything in that suitcase or nothing. And so it's just we have to be careful about how we say that. But the Romans passage of Paul's heart for our Jewish friends in Romans chapter 11 is simply that they will come to know Jesus as the Messiah. And if you want to get to God the Father, you have to go through Jesus. That's it. And it has nothing to do with the geopolitical entity that is called Israel today. That's a separate state that was created after World War II. And we can have reasons for allying with Israel as a geopolitical entity, but they don't necessarily have to be biblical reasons.
Yes.
So,
if I may, I think we are going to have to give an answer essentially to the dispensationalists, because, the dispensationalist is going to argue that, yes, that's what Israel looks like right now, but there, the prophecy is going to happen, and basically Israel is going to, to return to God, and the temple is going to be rebuilt, and it is going to be a very important part of the redemptive plan, right? And so there's a lot of folks who may look at it that way, and the one thing I would want to say to those folks is there is not this concept, because there are also folks, there are Jewish folks who are concerned with the idea of replacement theology, where the church has replaced the Jews, and we don't care about that anymore, and that's where anti-Semitism comes from, et cetera. So we got a couple of different types of people who may be listening to this and saying like, oh no, they still don't get it. No, we know these things.
That's a whole nother show though.
Correct. It's a whole other show. The one thing I will say is that the line through redemptive history are those who are actually chosen and converted by God Himself. The church is made up of those who are of Jewish descent, who believe on Jesus Christ, and those of us Gentiles who have been grafted in. There's not two different. There's not
peoples.
Two different peoples. There's
two different plans of salvation, two different ways of approaching the Father. Yeah. There's one way, and it's through the Son. And
Jew and Gentile made into one new race.
Correct.
That's it, and we call that the church.
Yes.
Jews and Gentiles together. And
that's
so
right.
And I mean, the Bible talks about, like Krista pointed out, one day He said at the end of the age of Gentiles is expected like awakening of Jews coming to Christ. But that just means they're becoming Christians. That's just
right.
And another point that's very confusing for a lot of people is that the Judaism of today, modern Judaism, is not the same as the Judaism of the Bible, because there's no temple, there's no priests, there's no sacrifices. You read the book of Hebrews. And so the Judaism of rabbinic Judaism that we have today is what the Jews did after the destruction of the temple to try to help save their religion. And so when people raise this concern of like, well, Judaism is just fake, it's not real. It's like, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that very inartfully, but what you mean to say is that, yes, the Judaism of the Bible is different than what we have as Talmudic Judaism, rabbinic Judaism of today. But that doesn't mean we need to hate Jews.
Correct.
And that doesn't mean that we don't love Jewish people and then we want to bring the gospel to them, or that we're just guided by blind, visceral Jew hate.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. For the chat, I love the Jewish people. I love their heritage. I love the Iranian people and their heritage, right? This is not about choosing sides between peoples, right?
Yes.
This is about governments at the end of the day, and governments war with one another. And if you're going to ask me, am I on the side of the government of Israel and their right to exist and what they're trying to accomplish? Or am I on the side of the government of Iran, who has funded proxies throughout the world and launched missiles and all the stuff they've done, and really, in my opinion, used the Palestinian people for their own propaganda and purposes? I just can't get with that. I'm rooting for the Iranian people, but the Iranian Islamic Republic regime, I can't. To me, they are not a force for good or peace in the world. And so that's what I'll say about that.
Well said.
But yeah. But with that said,
I'm looking at the clock like
I know. I'm gonna get him
We
out.
gotta go.
This black church tonight.
But I do gotta say this. I know some of those dispensations were hoping some of those Iranian hypersonic missiles would hit the temple, so they had to rebuild
it. Man, the Disneys were disappointed.
That is, they were. All right, you ready to get out of here, Devin?
So I do have to say, because I didn't get the chance to say this because we jumped right into the hot and heavy here. I am fanboying a little bit because Krista and Mo, I've been a fan of y'all's for many years, so it's an honor to be on the stream with y'all, getting to hang and talk with y'all. So I appreciate y'all.
Oh, we appreciate you too. Yes, definitely. We got to do this more.
Not here. I talk to y'all all the time.
You work my nerve. Don't start. Yeah. For sure.
No, but seriously, no, I appreciate you guys jumping on and joining us. I thought this went really well. And there was a lot of good discussion, and you guys brought up a lot of good points. And I appreciate the pushback and you guys kind of representing the other side, and Mo always representing the common folks in the back.
Don't play no games. I'm here for the common. I'm here for the common. Yeah, but I do think that, the more we discuss it, the more things I've read over the last couple of days, I could be persuaded. I am not persuaded with the regime change, but I could be persuaded to go in, hit that bunker or two, and get on out.
Yep.
Just because of the threat to America.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get into conversation on, well, who has been funding Iran? Like, was it us? You know what I mean? I have questions about that too.
Oh,
but
yeah. It was a lot of stuff that we had to get into, but we got to get Liam home. And so
I know, Liam, we appreciate you. You're a real one.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate you helping us out tonight, producing the show and working everything behind the scenes. But with that being said, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on and having this discussion with us.
We appreciate y'all for having the discussion and letting us, sit over here in the comment folks section.
All of our questions.
Yes, we over here repping the visitors in the church. We appreciate you.
I've never been on stream before where we spent 20 minutes talking about what we're drinking.
My gosh, I wish I could have joined y'all. Hey,
Mo, we're gonna get you on. And
I'm saying CFBU, we do not participate in the libations. While we are on CFBU property, our money does not go toward that end. There is a policy. I'm a policy kind of girl. However, at my own home, in the name, y'all just got to invite me back.
Okay, we're gonna do that.
All right.
I'm just saying.
So we got to do that now. I'm just saying, if you begin to cross into that world, you have to understand that Shalonda gonna flex on you every single week. Unless you are a mixologist, you're gonna get flexed on every time.
Don't play no games. I'm coming with some cab. That's all. That's all I'm coming with. I'm coming with a glass of wine. Okay.
You hear that noise? That noise?
What noise?
That's all the Baptists clicking off.
Stop it.
We lost them.
We all know Jesus. We all know Jesus turned that water into grape juice.
Won't he do it? In a minute, it's gonna be Liam clicking off if we don't stop playing.
The first man, what I tell you, when I became reformed, that was one of the first things that I was like, the whole time I was sitting under that quote unquote full gospel Baptist theology before I got into the Reformed Church. I'll never believe, not 1 second did I believe that he turned it into grape juice. Not 1 second.
See,
not one.
So I came from Assemblies of God, and I remember being told in the assemblies that celibacy is in relation to alcohol first and foremost.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah, we are. Hey,
Yes.
Bye.
Hey, Devin, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody, we thank y'all for joining us tonight. We want to thank Monique and Krista for tuning in for with us tonight. Go out, check out the Center for Biblical Unity at the centerforbiblicalunity.com, and they got a lot of great resources over there. You might see my face over there too. Yeah,
a lot.
Go to Podium. Check out Devin over at Podium Studios. Get all your marketing and podcasting needs done. He does great work. Even if it's like creating like special graphics and stuff, he does a great job with stuff. With that said, yeah,
wants to know.
Yeah. Oh, Devin's the man. Devin is the man. Yeah, but with that said, hey, we appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, stay informed.
Stay informed, folks.